The city was cold and merciless that morning, its streets lined with people who walked fast, eyes fixed ahead, pretending not to see the girl, sitting on the cracked pavement beside the luxury store, her thin fingers rubbed together, trying to summon warmth that never came. Her jacket was torn at the sleeves, her hair tangled, and her lips pale from hunger. Around her, the rhythm of the city never paused. Cars honked, heels clicked, laughter echoed from cafe doors, everyone living their lives as if she didn't exist. She wasn't begging that day. Not anymore. She just sat quietly, watching people with the kind of eyes that had seen too much. The paper cup beside her was empty. The cardboard sign she once used lay folded, soaked from last night's rain. Then, through the noise and motion, a car unlike any other stopped in front of her. Sleek, black, and expensive, it caught everyone's attention. The driver got out first, opened the rear door, and out stepped a man whose presence silenced the street. His suit was tailored, his watch gleamed in the gray light, and even his walk carried power. He didn't look at the crowd, his gaze fixed directly on the girl. For a moment she froze, uncertain if she was in trouble. He approached slowly, his polished shoes stopping just inches from her tattered sneakers. Without saying a word, he pulled something from his pocket, a small, elegant black credit card, and held it out toward her. The girl blinked, confused, afraid to touch it. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Take it," he said calmly, his tone giving nothing away. "Spend it however you want. I'll be watching." Her fingers trembled as she accepted the card. The moment it touched her skin, the world seemed to pause. He looked at her once more, no smile, no explanation, then turned, got back into his car, and disappeared into the traffic. The entire exchange had taken less than a minute, but everyone nearby had seen it. A homeless girl handed a black credit card, one of those rumored to have no limits. The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some laughed, calling it a prank. Others whispered that maybe she was part of a stunt, a hidden camera show. One woman sneered, "She'll sell it for drugs before sunset." But the girl didn't react. She sat perfectly still, clutching the card in both hands, feeling its weight, its strange warmth. It wasn't fake. The card was real. The numbers were engraved, the logo shining faintly in the light. She didn't know whether to cry or run. What if it was a trick? What if she used it and got arrested? But deep down, something in the man's eyes told her it wasn't cruelty. It was a test. She didn't know why she thought that, but the thought anchored her heart. The moment she stepped into the store, the air seemed to shift. It smelled of perfume, leather, and wealth, an entire world far removed from the cold pavement she had just left. Every head turned toward her instantly. The bright lights made the dirt on her face and the frayed edges of her jacket stand out like a wound. A saleswoman approached, her polite smile trembling on the edge of disgust. "I'm sorry, miss, but this place isn't..." The girl lifted her hand before the woman could finish, holding up the black credit card. The reaction was immediate. The woman's words choked in her throat, her eyes widening as she recognized the emblem etched in gold. Within seconds, the manager appeared, almost running. "Of course, miss. Right this way," he said with a rehearsed grin that barely hid his confusion. The saleswoman who had just tried to throw her out now pulled out a chair, offered her bottled water, and gestured to racks of clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The girl sat there stiffly, still clutching the card, feeling all eyes on her. The manager began to speak quickly, naming brands she had never heard of, showing her jackets, scarves, boots. He even offered her a glass of champagne. "You're free to try anything you like, miss," he said, smiling too wide. She looked around at the glittering displays, at the mirrors reflecting a version of herself that didn't belong. Her fingers brushed against a silk dress smooth as a whisper. For a second, she imagined what it would feel like to wear it, to be seen, to walk out of this place not as a ghost, but as someone who mattered. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a small child pressed against the window outside. The boy's face was pale, his coat too thin for the weather. His mother sat beside him, shaking her hands to keep warm. The girl's heart clenched. She looked back at the racks of clothes, then at the card in her hand. "Do you have any coats in kids' sizes?" she asked quietly. The manager blinked, confused. "Children's coats? This is a luxury boutique, miss. We specialize in..." "Then blankets," she interrupted. "Warm ones. As many as you can find." He hesitated, but the look in her eyes made him obey. Within minutes, she had piled her arms with coats, scarves, gloves, and blankets. The staff exchanged baffled looks. She didn't even glance at the jewelry or perfume counters. She walked straight to the cashier and handed over the card. The machine beeped once. Approved, the screen flashed. The total was enormous, but she didn't flinch. In the quiet interior of the black car, the hum of the engine was the only sound for a while. The CEO leaned back against the leather seat, eyes fixed on the tablet in his hand, where live footage showed the homeless girl still out in the cold, giving away the last of the coats. The small smile on her face, fragile yet genuine, stirred something unfamiliar inside him. His assistant, sitting across from him, kept glancing between the screen and his boss, unable to contain his confusion. "Sir, I don't understand," he said finally. "That card has no limit. She could have bought herself a place to stay, a meal, even a house if she wanted, and she spent it all on strangers." The CEO didn't respond right away. His fingers tapped lightly against his knee, his gaze distant.
"Do you remember the last one?"
he said at last, his voice low. The assistant nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. The influencer from last month. She spent $80,000 in 3 hours. Jewelry, designer bags, champagne. Then she posted a video bragging about how generosity found her." The CEO's jaw tightened. Exactly. Every single one of them failed. He swiped the screen, revealing a list of names and images. 5 people before her. Each had been given the same black card. Each had been told the same words. "Spend it however you want. I'll be watching." Not one had chosen kindness. Until now. The assistant hesitated. "But sir, why her? You could have picked anyone. She's just—" His voice trailed off, unsure if it was wise to finish the sentence. The CEO turned his head slowly, his sharp eyes locking onto him. "Because she didn't ask for anything," he said quietly. "Every person I've tested before reached out, begged for help, demanded a chance. But she never did. She just kept surviving." He looked back at the screen, where the girl was now sitting beside the others she had helped, wrapping a small child in a blanket and smiling as if she had everything she needed in the world. The assistant shifted uncomfortably, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Is this another experiment, sir? Like the others?" The CEO gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "In a way, I wanted to prove something. That wealth changes people, not just those who have it, but those who touch it. I needed to see if purity still existed in a world obsessed with more." His eyes narrowed slightly as the image zoomed in on the girl's face. "And now I have my answer." The assistant frowned, glancing at the data on his tablet. "Her name is Lily Hart," he said softly. 23 years old, no family listed. Lost her home 2 years ago after her mother's medical bills piled up. She's been on the street since then, sometimes working odd jobs, sometimes disappearing for days at a time. The police reports show she's never been in trouble, just forgotten. The night air was sharp, biting against her skin as Lily pulled her thin jacket tighter and made her way back toward the abandoned cafe that had become her shelter. The city had grown quieter, though the hum of distant traffic still filled the silence like an endless heartbeat. Her arms were empty now, her body trembling from exhaustion, but her heart felt strangely full. Around her she could still hear faint laughter and soft words of gratitude from the people she had helped. She knew by morning they might forget her name, but that didn't matter. For once she had done something that mattered to someone. She crouched down in her corner beside the broken dumpster, lighting the tiny candle she had found earlier that week. Its flame flickered weakly in the cold, but it was enough to cast a small trembling glow. From a paper bag she pulled out a single sandwich, her only meal of the day. The smell made her stomach tighten painfully. She tore the sandwich into 3 pieces, careful and deliberate, and whistled softly. 2 stray dogs emerged from the shadows, tails wagging hesitantly. They had been following her since the afternoon, silent companions in a world that had turned its back on her. She smiled and placed the larger pieces in front of them. "Eat," she whispered. "You've been good today." They devoured the food, licking her hands afterward, while she took the smallest piece and chewed slowly, eyes closed, savoring every crumb. That was when she heard footsteps. Slow, steady, heavy. She froze, heart pounding, and turned toward the sound. A tall figure stood at the edge of the alley, the glow of the streetlight outlining him like something out of a dream. He stepped closer and she recognized the same tailored coat, the same presence that had silenced the street earlier that day. The man from the car. Her breath caught. You, she whispered, rising to her feet, clutching her thin jacket like armor. Why are you here? Was it a joke? He didn't answer right away. His eyes moved past her, noticing the dog sleeping beside her, the extinguished candle, the half-eaten sandwich. Then his gaze returned to her face. You could have bought a roof, food, clothes, he said quietly. But you gave it all away. Why? Her throat tightened. Because I know what it's like to be hungry, she replied, her voice trembling but steady. To be cold, to be invisible. I couldn't sit there and eat knowing someone else was freezing. She lowered her eyes, almost ashamed of her words. I thought maybe if I helped them it would make the world a little less cruel. Even if just for tonight. He stepped closer until they were only a few feet apart. The soft glow from the candle reflected in his eyes. You think kindness can change the world? He asked, his tone calm, almost curious. She hesitated. No, she said after a long pause, but it can change someone's world, and that's enough. The morning sunlight filtered through sheer white curtains, soft and unfamiliar. For a moment, Lily thought she was dreaming. The smell of clean sheets, the warmth of a blanket wrapped around her, and the quiet hum of city life outside the window. It all felt too good to be real. Slowly, she sat up, her fingers tracing the smooth surface of the mattress beneath her. She wasn't on the pavement anymore. She wasn't in the alley behind the cafe. She was in a room, bright, spacious, filled with light and calm. A vase of fresh flowers stood on the bedside table, their petals still glistening with dew, and next to it a small note and a key card lay neatly placed. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the note. The handwriting was elegant, strong, and unmistakably his. You passed the test. Report to my office tomorrow at 9. Your life is about to change. She stared at the words, trying to breathe through the wave of disbelief that rose inside her. Beneath the note, the same black credit card glimmered, but this time, it wasn't blank. Her name was engraved on it in gold letters, Lily Hart. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the card to her chest, whispering a silent thank you to the man who had appeared in her life like a storm, testing her in ways she hadn't understood. She had no idea why he'd chosen her. But she knew one thing. He had seen her when no one else did. And that was enough. The next day, she stood in front of a towering glass building, her reflection staring back at her in disbelief. Dressed in clean clothes left neatly folded in the apartment, she looked almost like someone new. The receptionist smiled as if she had been expected. Mr. Blackwood is waiting for you, she said, leading her to the elevator. When the doors opened on the top floor, he was there, standing by the window. Looking out over the city, he ruled. You kept your promise, he said without turning. I had to, she replied quietly. You gave me a chance. He turned then, his gaze softer than she remembered. No, he said. You gave yourself one. He handed her a folder. Inside were documents for a new position. Director of the Blackwood Foundation, a charity aimed at helping the homeless. Her name was printed at the top. Months later, headlines told the story. Homeless woman becomes, Seos, charity director, a real-life miracle. But Lily didn't care about fame. Every night she still walked the same streets, her arms full of blankets, her smile warm and familiar. People whispered her name like a legend. But to her it was simple. She had just done what felt right when no one was watching. Now she was making sure the world finally started to watch.